Back now with more breaking news now out of Geneva, the center of high-stakes nuclear talks that just concluded amid new threats from Iran. The second round of indirect negotiations between the U.S. and Iran unfolding this morning, with President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law Jared Kushner both representing the U.S. and Oman once again playing mediator. Both Trump and Iran demanding the other come to the table in good faith, as Iran's supreme leader unleashed a barrage of online threats, writing that American warships deployed to the region are dangerous, but not as deadly as, quote, the weapon that can send that warship to the bottom of the sea. Want to bring in MS Now's Inez de la Cuetara from the ground in Geneva, Switzerland. Also with us, MS Now political analyst and former Undersecretary of State Rick Stengel. Inez, I'll go first to you on the ground. Is either side giving a sense that any real progress was made today? And where does any potential for a nuclear deal stand at this point?
Yeah, so we're still waiting for a readout from the American side. We know the talks have wrapped. We were there outside of the Omani ambassador's residence where the talks took place. We know they went on for about 3.5 hours. They were indirect talks, so the American and Iranian delegations never actually came face to face. Instead, they were talking to the Omani foreign minister who was mediating those negotiations. But we did get remarks made by the Iranian foreign minister after the talks relayed by Iranian state TV. So I'll just list some of the points that he made. He said in this round, compared to the previous one, completely serious discussions were raised and there was a more constructive atmosphere. He went on to say that they were able to reach a general agreement on a set of guiding principles based on which we will now proceed and move toward drafting the text of a potential agreement. So again, waiting for more from the U.S. side, but if that's the case, that would certainly be significant, Ali.
Yeah, that would be significant, and I know you'll bring us more as you get it. But Rick, going into today, there was talk that the talks were just going to center on the nuclear file. So can you talk about what that means? And I'm interested in the ways that this may or may not end up looking like Obama's Iran deal that Trump has criticized so frequently, because I'm seeing shades of similarities.
Yes, Ali, you took the words out of my mouth. I'll get to that in 1 second. But I mean, the fact that our side, that the U.S. side is not talking about regime change, is already a modest victory for the Iranians. That was the saber rattling that Trump has been doing, has been about interceding against the Iranian government and the killing of demonstrators. By the way, something that we should be on the side of the demonstrators. But the fact that the talks are decoupled from regime change is something that's good. The Iranian foreign minister is making the right kind of noises. I mean, the reason Iran is up against the wall is precisely because of that domestic threat, which is an existential threat to them. The regime wants to remove all the other threats from the outside, i.e. the United States and Israel, so that's why they're talking. So what you could end up with, Ali, to end where we began, is a deal that does look a lot like the Obama-Iran deal of 2016, which gets them away from enrichment, that reduces the number of centrifuges, that puts off to the great distance any time that they would have a nuclear capability. And by the way, that would be a great thing. And even though it would be hypocritical for the president because he criticized that last thing, but he would like this deal because he's the one who made it.
Yeah, and we are seeing him sort of pull back on something that Witkoff had said, where Witkoff would allow for a small percentage of uranium enrichment. Trump was saying now he won't settle for anything but zero. I guess I also wonder what it says to you that it's Kushner and Witkoff, again, in the room at the center of things, and the way that Trump is also still leaving on the table, as he always does, he's the president, that he might be indirectly involved in already indirect talks. So doesn't that sort of negate any negotiating that Kushner and Witkoff could even do at the table if Trump could just come in at any point and say, actually, it's going to be this?
You know, Ali, there's just a mythology about somehow that you can negotiate like it's some Perry Mason case in the law, and you've got some deal that you wouldn't otherwise get. Nations have interest. They represent their interest. And the fact that Witkoff and Kushner is there, I mean, they're real estate guys. This is not a real estate deal. I mean, under some circumstances, you can talk about the negotiations in Gaza. Real estate is involved. This is not about real estate. This is about nuclear weapons. When the Obama administration negotiated, Ernest Moniz, a nuclear physicist, was doing the negotiation. I hope and pray that there's somebody in the delegation of Witkoff and Kushner that knows something about nuclear weapons.
That would be a key thing, given what the negotiations are hinging on. And as this is, of course, not the only topic of negotiation happening in Geneva, because Witkoff and Kushner are going to spend the rest of the day in negotiations there over Russia's war in Ukraine. What more is happening on that front? This is a heck of a way to spend a day. Mornings spent on trying to fix the situation in Iran, afternoons spent on trying to get through the ever complex issue of ending Russia's war in Ukraine.
Yeah, a really big day for diplomacy and for Kushner and Witkoff. We do know that talks on Ukraine are now underway. We understand those are talks that are happening in a trilateral format. So the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine all coming face to face in the same room, unlike what happened with Iran. In terms of where those talks stand, we did get some details from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, when he was at the Munich Security Conference. He had talked about how they had pretty much boiled it down to just a few key issues, but he did say that those were the issues that were hardest to resolve. He didn't say what issue specifically, but we know that in the past it's been security guarantees and this issue of territory that have been the big sticking points.
Yeah, and those have been the sticking points for months now. Inez de la Cuetara, rocking with me since 5 a.m. and going throughout the day. Thank you, my friend. And Rick Stengel, always appreciate your insights as well.